This
conversation.
conference will now be recorded.
All right, good evening, everybody. 7:09 p.m. September 28th, 2020. I'm Chris Pia. This is the regularly scheduled meeting for the WPCA of Stratford, September 28th. We're going to call to order the approval of the minutes. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the regularly scheduled meeting from June 22nd, 2020. Mr. Poisson, I see a hand raised. Do I have a second for that motion?
I'll second. Laura Dancho.
Ms. Dancho, thank you very much. All in favor of approving the minutes signify by saying aye.
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 Chair votes aye. Any opposed? No opposed. Motion passes unanimously, 8-0. For the record, Councilors Hardin and Taveras are absent at the moment. Next item on the agenda, item 3, report by the town engineer. Mr. Casey, how are you, sir?
I'm fine, thank you. We have a number of action items, so I'll just start at the top and run through.
Yep.
The pump station project, as you know, is underway, and a couple of change orders that we need to execute. The first one is one that we talked about early on during the award of the project, that there were several items that we thought we could benefit by not doing, and in value engineering we were able to get credits for some items that we didn't think we really needed to do. Originally we had accepted $227,000 worth. However, one is still under consideration, see if it's in our best interest to proceed or not. So the ones that we are proceeding with total $172,500. So where I wrote my memo 227, that will be $172,500, and that would be a credit change order to the contract, and that would be conditional upon the DEP approval. Since it's over $100,000, the DEP has to make an approval of that change order, even though it's a credit.
Okay. You know what, John, since your group pump station project change order under A, 1, 2, and 3, why don't you go down the line and we'll take it as one item.
Sure. The next item is for the installation of a bypass valve. That would be a permanent bypass valve that we remain in place so it could be used in the future. The current estimate of that is $35,000, not to exceed, and we're still reviewing it, but we do want to move it not to exceed so that we can execute it once we finalize the final number. That's at Riders Lane.
35,000 was the number, John?
Yes, not to exceed.
Not to exceed. Okay.
And then the third item is the underground storage tank at Riders Lane is in the way of one of the micro piles that have to be installed to do the structural support for the coastal resiliency. And we found that we don't need to have the tank there in its full volume. So we are recommending we remove the tank, and that will something we're going to have to remove in about 5 years anyway. So we might as well remove it now and avoid the conflict and having to change the design of the micro piles. That cost is not to exceed $10,214.16. So we got a better number since Friday, and we're still working on the number, but that would be not to exceed $10,214.16.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion for approval of items action items, change order under A, action item A, 1, 2, and 3, as referenced by Mr. Casey. These are all for the pump station project that we put forward under Clean Water Board to have everything.
Motion to approve.
Mr. Poisson, motion by Mr. Poisson. Do I have a second to that?
I'll second. Laura Dancho.
Okay, Ms. Dancho, second. Discussion on this? Any questions for Mr. Casey?
We would want to make sure that it's clear that number one is conditional upon the DEP approval.
Right.
Gotcha. Well, Carol will make sure that that's clear in the minutes, conditional upon DEP approval. Gotcha. Thank you, John. Okay, no further discussion. We'll vote on this item. Everyone in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No opposed. Motion passes 8-0 for item A. Item B, go ahead, John.
So item B is a general item, but it relates to item C. And if you remember last fall and last January, we were talking about funding the capital projects, and that there was the sewer revolving fund would be available for use to fund some of the capital projects. Jay Wahlberg attended the WPCA meeting. I met with him myself in February. And that was the direction we were heading, but unfortunately that wasn't worked out and Jay passed away. So at this point in time, those funds aren't really available to us. So in order to fund, various projects, but specifically item C is the the I&I sewer remediation project. As far as the budget and the scope that we were working on, we're about $80,000 short, based on the amount of money that's been previously set aside in the capital plan for this item. So we would request that you authorize $80,000 in addition to previous capital plan funds, and then we would go to item C and make a recommendation to award the project to the low bidder.
Okay. So in summary for everyone, and I do remember this conversation with Jay, we had talked about using the sewer revolving fund for capital improvements. He did state on record, and it obviously, you can go back and check it, that he was okay with this. I'm okay with moving forward with the request from John Casey. Him and I spoke about this, to take $80,000 to continue moving forward with the lining project, which we've been working on for almost 2 years now. So I will entertain a motion to approve item B, to authorize the use of $80,000 as requested by the town engineer from the sewer revolving fund for the I&I project, to then move forward and look at item C, which would be voting on the bid.
And so just to clarify that, I'm not sure that the new finance director is ready to use the sewer revolving fund, so this might have to come out of fund balance until that other question is resolved.
This might have to come out of fund balance, you said, John?
Yes.
Okay. So let me do this. Hang on Greg, 1 second.
Yeah, Greg can't, you're ready.
Yep, no problem. Hold on 1 second. So I'll entertain that motion, and then we'll have a discussion on this. Feedback from you.
I'll make the motion. I don't know if Jim's trying to do that, but I'll make the motion to for item B to go with the $80,000 out of the fund balance.
I'll second it. This is Jim from the 8th District.
Jim, I got you on the second, but Laura, Ms. Dancho, just clarify 80, or I heard 8. I just want to verify.
Oh, I'm sorry. I said $80,000.
Yep, from the fund, yep. So Ms. Dancho with the motion. Jim, you're still good with your second?
Yes.
Okay. So we'll open up discussion. Greg, you were, I'll give you the first chance here.
Thank you, Chris. I understand Mr. Casey's hesitation, but I think what statutorily the sewer revolving fund is set up explicitly to be used for capital improvement funds related to the sewer system, and it's set up to be used exclusively by the WPCA. The town has I'll use the word expropriated. Prior town councils worked with a prior mayor to take over $3 million out of the sewer revolving fund and use it for the town's general fund. That was, I'll say it again, an expropriation of WPCA ratepayer money. I believe Don Savo would be very experienced with why these funds are set up under statute, the purpose of the funds, and she would be, quite adept. By leaving those, I'm not against using the WPCA's general fund to expedite the completion of the CI&I project, but I'm frustrated for, I'll say, the fourth year that we've not utilized the sewer revolving funds resources to pay for WPCA capital expenses. The fact that we leave that money there leaves it open to being taken by the town like it has been taken by the town in the near, 3 years ago and 4 years ago. I could give you more background, but the sooner we use that money for its statutory purposes, then the sooner we can avoid cost increases to the WPCA ratepayers, and we could avoid crossing that commingling of funds, that legal. So in regards to John's request for a motion, I would approve using the WPCA general fund for this $80,000 purpose, but explicitly we've got to use that sewer revolving fund for its intended purpose to protect the WPCA ratepayers, which are not always the taxpayers. And I'd want everyone to be conscientious that we do not cross that legal threshold again. The mayor has promised us a number of times that she will not do that, but the risk remains open. So when we have an opportunity to spend that near $3 million balance that's in the sewer revolving fund, let's use it to pay down the capital expenses and avoid risking financial liabilities for the WPCA ratepayers. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. And to your point, I full-heartedly agree. The sewer revolving fund is for capital improvements. I'm all for it. That's why when John and I spoke, I wanted to bring it forward, and we're going to use the money the right way, the way it's supposed to be done, and the way this council has been for the last almost 3 years now. That's what we've done. So any other discussion from anybody else on this item? No? Okay. So we're going to, we'll have a vote now. All in favor of, again, approving $80,000 to be taken from the sewer revolving fund to be used for capital improvement, as clearly stated by the town engineer, Mr. Casey, in his note and on the meeting tonight. Please signify by saying aye.
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 Okay. Chair votes aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes 8-0. John, item C.
The bids were received September 3rd for the sewer rehabilitation and sealing for infiltration removal. And this low bid went to National Water Main in the amount of $344,425. I did send along a copy of the engineer's recommendation to award following their bid review. National Water Main is a contractor that's worked with us before, and we recommend award of the contract to National Water Main.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to approve and award the contract as stated by the town engineer, Mr. Casey, to National Water Main in the amount of $344,425. I'll entertain that motion.
Greg will make the motion.
Greg? Yeah, thank you, sir.
Bill O'Brien, seconds. Bill O'Brien.
Seconded by Mr. O'Brien. Any discussion on the item? I thought it was, I'll just add, I thought it was, for everyone's reference, the letter by Ty and Bond was very informative and detailed in backing up the details of that, so I'm very comfortable with this as well. Any other discussion on the item?
Yeah, it's Greg.
Go ahead, Greg.
I was going to thank, again, Lori from Ty and Bond for a very comprehensive letter, and John Casey for overseeing that relationship. It's been very productive for us, and gives us a good feeling when we have professional partners.
I agree. Anything else? Okay, we'll call for a vote. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Chair votes aye. Any opposed? No opposed. Motion passes 8-0. Item D, Mr. Casey.
So item D is for the sewer lining project that's been underway, almost complete. And if you remember, we had wanted to do some additional TVing of that 18-inch sewer main that's coming from Lordship across the airport property heading towards Short Beach Pump Station, to make sure that the parts that we had previously found to be deteriorating didn't continue further down past the airport. So we did do that TVing, and we did observe spalling and erosion of the concrete liner of the sewer pipe all the way down Heartland Ave, and beyond that to the Short Beach Pump Station, the pipe is in better condition. So we would recommend that we extend the lining project to do Heartland as well. It's a very deep sewer. It'd be difficult to make a repair on it because of its depth. There's a definite deterioration of the pipe, so installing this liner will prolong the length of the life of that pipe for another 75 years or so. The cost of that was estimated at $35,830, and we would also have the engineer continue to oversee the project to complete the project, and their fee was estimated at $7,970 to do that.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to approve item D as stated by Mr. Casey.
So moved, Bill O'Brien.
Mr. O'Brien, second.
And Greg will second.
Greg, thank you on the second. Any discussion on this? Everything was pretty detailed in Mr. Casey's report, so all right. Being there's no discussion, I'll call for a vote. Everyone in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Chair votes aye. Any opposed? No opposed. Motion passes 8-0. Mr. Casey, item E.
Item E is the coastal resiliency project planned around the sewage treatment plant. The project, if you remember, was to install a flood wall along the perimeter of the plant site on top of the existing hurricane dike that was built in the late 70s to protect the plant from flooding at the time. As you know, because of the revised FEMA flood zones, the predicted 100-year storm elevation there is higher than it was back in 1980. And so in order to protect the treatment plant and have it continue to operate and not suffer damage during that peak storm that we have yet to have seen, the flood wall would give that protection, that additional protection. We have applied for a grant to FEMA for partial funding of that project, and they have been considering that favorably for some time, and they've just sent us a notice that they've approved that grant, and it's now time for the mayor to accept the grant. The acceptance of the grant means that we will then have to start to do the project, and to start the project, we'll have to fund our share of the project. And our share of the project has been partially funded. Over the course of the last several years, every year we've been asking for some funds. We have the funds available to start the design, and let's see, hold on one second. Our funds are going to be on the order of 7.5 to 7.9 million, of which we have 4.4 already set aside. So in the future, we would then continue to want to fund the project for the balance of $3.5 million or so. So the long and short of it is the town is ready to accept the grant. Not all the funding is in place for our share right now, but we don't need it to be in place for our share right now, but we will need it when we begin the project. And by accepting the grant, we're committing to funding our share of the balance. We've already sent them a letter in the past when we applied for it that we would commit to it. I think we've talked about it before, but I just want to re-emphasize that accepting the grants is committing us to funding the balance of the project. So we're looking for 2 or 3 decisions here. One is to vote to have the mayor accept the grant and sign the paperwork. And then the other is just an acknowledgement, that we're going to continue to fund the project through its construction. And then thirdly, it's now the appropriate time to start the design phase of the project. So we have the funding for that in place, and we would recommend we proceed to select a designer to do the design phase. Our current consultant who did the coastal resiliency plan, the concept design, and then we had them also assist with the grant supplemental information for the floodplain management certificate and the emergency management plan and the wetland identification and some further preliminary design details has been GZA Engineering. They've been working on the project to date on this project. So the next step would be to hire the engineer for the final design and construction documents, and then through the construction phase of the project.
So thank you, John. I mean, first off, John's been working on this since we all got elected. Since you and I started, since I became WPCA chair 3 years ago, John, you and I have been talking about this in your office about this FEMA app. So
that's right.
And I took a tour of the plant about a year ago with all the architects in DEEP and FEMA, and we were hopeful that we would get selected by FEMA on this, and we did. So first off, I think we should all thank John for his work on this because it's not easy to get these grants accepted. So I thank you on behalf of the WPCA, John. The first thing is I am behind accepting this and putting the commitment behind it. It's something we have to do. It is, the waters are rising, and we got to protect the dike in the WPCA plant first and foremost. So I'm supportive of this in regards to the funding in terms of our share. Using funds from capital over the next, as I'm reading your report, fiscal year 18 to 23, I believe it is, in terms of how we'll fund this. I would also like to ask that I'm fine with voting to approve this tonight or approve the commitment to it. Maybe next month we can discuss financing of it with Dawn in regards to bonding or what the most appropriate use is going forward, whether it's total funding from capital or bonding or a combination of the two. That's the only thing that I'd like to add and caveat, but I'm fine with the commitment to move forward tonight. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the acceptance of the grant at 2.7 million and change, as well as to send it to the mayor for sign and to commit to finding out to determining the financing structure over the next a couple months from the WPCA.
Laura Dancho, motion to approve.
Ms. Dancho, do I have a second to that?
Caitlin Shake, second.
Seconded by Ms. Shake. Any discussion? Anybody else have anything else to add on this?
I just wanted to thank John Casey. This is Laura Dancho for his work on this. And I think that when we all decided to apply for this grant, we committed to this project at that time. So I think we just need to move forward with it. And I think it'll be a good thing to get moving. I'm excited to get the money from the federal government.
Thank you, Ms. Dancho. Anybody else like that?
Yeah.
Greg?
Oh, okay. Thank you, Chris.
Go ahead, Greg. Yep.
You mentioned as part of this motion that we'll ask Don to bring forward a financial proposal. That would also a timing, given what John said, that we have about 4.4 million already set aside. We've got this 2.7, and the timing of when we will need to bond or expend, if you will, the additional 3.5 million. So the financial plan will kind of be comprehensive to the whole project.
Yes. Just so you know, Greg, where my head's at, so to answer your question, is I'd like to see multiple options as to pay it out of pocket, pay it out of pure financing, or a combination thereof, and when. So I'd like to just keep our options open, and that's why I'm saying that.
And Chris, can we do that in conjunction with the other capital projects? For example, the pump stations, where we have $19 million that needs to be funded?
The only issue, I have no problem having the conversation the same night. The only, and again, I'm just speaking off the cuff, Greg, the only issue I see with that is the pump station project is we're doing the financing at 2% through the Clean Water Fund through the state. We're not,
Sorry, okay. As long, if that's been secured, that's awesome. I was trying to anticipate the alternative.
It is great.
The year that the debt would become due, or we'd have to start paying it, and the projection on the rates. So I think we're in a good spot. There was another item in John's, and that's regarding choosing an engineer. You mentioned GZA. Would we handle that to a separate motion?
I didn't. Mr. Casey, can you weigh in on that point by Mr. Kent?
Yeah, first of all, just to clarify the Clean Water Fund for the pump station, we have applied for that, but the DP is reviewing that. They've authorized us to proceed. So but it's not necessarily secured yet because we haven't gotten the agreement for that yet, nor signed it. So when that agreement comes in, hopefully by your next meeting, you'll have resolutions there for the mayor to sign that as well. But that is in the process, not necessarily secured at this point. But the next step for the treatment plant coastal resiliency project then would be to hire an engineer. And at this point, like I said, we have our engineer that we've been using, GZA, and then we can have a discussion about, do we want to continue to use GZA, or do we want to go forward with a selection process using qualification-based selection, which would probably be, I'm sure, required by the project grant, since they may be funding part of the engineering services, although they're not necessarily paying for all that, because we're paying for a good part of it anyway. So not exactly sure how that would work out. But either way, if we want to hire an engineer, we would, and go back out on the street, we would start the process from scratch and advertise, get qualifications from engineer, rank them, and pick the engineer who we felt was most qualified, and then we would negotiate with that engineer a fee for the design phase.
So, Mr. Casey, what I'm hearing is, regarding the design engineer, and to Greg's question, we're going to handle that as a separate motion, Greg, to answer your question. So let's.
Proceed with this motion.
Yep, thank you. So any other discussion on this motion as motioned by Ms. Dancho and then seconded by Ms. Shake? Mr. Poisson?
Yes, can I ask John a question?
Absolutely.
John, I take it that one of the main reasons we're doing this is to protect the plant from another hurricane type event. Is that one of the main reasons we're doing this?
It is for some coastal event that would drive up the tide, and we're designing it, to the same level that we're designing our pump stations to, which is far higher than what the current storm level is predicted. So because it's a critical infrastructure, it would be designed to the 500-year plus 2 feet.
Right. Well, Jim, I can speak from experience. Jim and I were on the council the last time I heard that those two hurricanes swept through Connecticut, and if I recall correctly, we came within like 2 inches of the water overrunning the plant. So I'm all in favor of this.
Okay. Any other discussion on the motion?
Say, Chris, Bill O'Brien, just one more question for John.
Go
And
ahead.
I agree with Laura and Ken. John, is there any potential additional grants from FEMA in the future for this project?
There are always grants available. They're not always pertinent to our project. So I would say that if they become available, we might look at it. We are thinking about applying for another grant for the it's called the BRIC grant, BRIC. That's coming out shortly. That maybe we could apply for additional funds for this project. So I wouldn't rule it out, but I think that would be, if we got it, it would be several years before we knew if we were going to get it anyway.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion on this motion?
Yeah. Chris, Greg, just
Yep, go ahead, Greg.
so what we're, as part of this motion, we're approving the FEMA for the mayor to sign it. We're asking Don to build alternative financial packages, which may require bonding from the WPCA, or it may allow us to earn a grant, like was discussed. But this motion will allow us to proceed even if we have not yet secured the $3.5 million outstanding cost for the project.
That is correct. The motion is to essentially give the commitment and hence allow the mayor to sign the commitment letter, the MOU or the letter of understanding. And then for us, and I have no problem doing it, I actually prefer to do it next month, have the finance director present to us options of that financing package.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep. Any other discussion? Okay. Hearing none, we'll vote on the motion as presented. Everyone in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Chair votes aye. Any opposed? No opposed. Motion passes 8-0. Thank you all on that. Mr. Casey, going back to under item E, just if you could state again, just regarding the last paragraph there that we were just discussing about, I forgot the name of the company in terms of selecting for the design phase.
The GZA is the consultant that has been working on the project to date. They were selected by a qualification-based selection process for the town-wide coastal resiliency plan, not necessarily for the design of this particular project. So, one option would be to continue to use them and using the previous selection process, request a proposal from them for the design phase. A different option would be then to start from scratch and redo a selection process specifically for this project.
Mr. Casey, let me ask you a question, because I do remember meeting with them when we walked the perimeter of the plant. But do you feel it's in the town's best, the WPCA's interest to continue moving forward with GZA, being that they have the intimate knowledge and have been working on this thus far, or going out to it for a new qualification process, in your opinion?
I would be satisfied with GZA. I think they've done very detailed work for us, and they've stayed with us through the grant process. Some of the work they do is not contracted work. In other words, they are assisting us in meetings and phone calls, and that are not part of the scope of what they actually have been paid to do. But unless there's something in the grant that would, say we definitely have to start with from scratch, I'm not opposed to that. It's just a process that we would have to go through, and we'd want to then define, a selection committee. How do you want to go about selecting another consultant? In the past, the WPCA had a subcommittee that would read the proposals and conduct the interviews and make a recommendation back to the full body. So I'm happy with GZA, and I'm also happy to do a full-blown process. And if the grant requires a full-blown process, we would just do that anyway.
All right, so I'd be completely fine with taking your thank you and with maintaining the status quo with this and working with GZA going forward. The only caveat I would put in there is if the grant does require, then obviously we have to adhere to that. But I'm okay with moving forward with GZA based off the relationship and what you just detailed. So if anybody wants to make, I'll entertain a motion for that.
You just made the motion. You said it very well.
If you want to technically make it, then I would just state my opinion. Thank you. You want to make it?
Yeah, do you want me to repeat it?
Sure, if you don't mind.
Okay. Motion to request GZA to provide a proposal for the design phase of this project, this sub-project, barring any other, I forget the word that you just used, somebody's limitation that we need to go out to do a selection.
Point well said. Second, do I hear a second to Mr. Can's motion?
I'll second Laura Dancho.
Thank you, Ms. Dancho. Any further discussion on that? Okay, hearing none, we'll call for a vote. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Any opposed? Passes 8-0. I believe we still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We just lost Mr. Poisson, so Carol, just let the Mr. Poisson just dropped off right before that vote. So if you could just note that, but the vote was 7-0 for the record. Okay. All right, Mr. Casey, last item under your report, sir, for action items I see is item F.
Yes, this is the housing development that is located behind Christ Church property on Main Street. This project came to the WPCA's attention, actually for permission to connect 45 residential units in March of 2016. That development didn't proceed, and a new developer came in and proposed a larger development, and they are now seeking permission to connect their new development, which is 103 units. The 103 units consist mainly of one bedroom, a couple 2-bedrooms. So if you compare the bedrooms, it's 59 bedrooms versus 121 bedrooms. And sometimes we use bedrooms as a count rather than a unit as a count to gauge how much impact there would be with the sewer system. But regardless, the previous approval was for an average daily flow of 8,850 gallons per day, and the current proposal is 18,150 gallons per day. So that's the difference between the two developments. And again, we bring these larger developments to you because this is not something that we typically, it's not something that we considered this type of development when the original sewer system was being planned. The zone of that area would not have normally allowed for 103 units. And because it's going, it's more than what we had originally anticipated, we're bringing this to you, and we've done that with other units like the Forest City apartments, and looking for you to approve it as an independent, large, unique project.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to approve item F as stated by Mr. Casey, with the reference of the flow, estimated peak flow estimates as detailed as an attachment in the minutes tonight that were sent out. I'll entertain that motion.
Greg Can will make the motion.
Greg, thank you very much.
Second, Bill O'Brien.
Seconded by Bill. Okay, discussion. Mr. Casey, the only question I have for you, and thank you for the letter that you provided us with the peak flow estimate. I know we discussed this. Were we able to model this property at all in any way in our modeling that we did about a year and a half ago?
So if we would have modeled it for the previous development and not this current proposed development. So if in June I brought to you the proposal from Ty and Bond, if we were to want them to do an analysis of the proposed development and incorporate it into the model and see if there were impacts, their fee was not to exceed $1,700 per review. And this is because we knew this was coming. This is why we had asked Ty and Bond for that fee, and you did approve that fee. So we could refer this to Ty and Bond and have them perform the work to make sure that the property would not be contributing adversely to our sewer system capacity.
But the original projection was at 8,000 gallons per day versus 18,000 now.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's the average daily flow, and the peak. Then and we look at the average flow. We'd also look at the peak flow to compare it against capacity of peak flows.
And forgive me if I'm mistaken on give me a couple leeway on points, plus or minus a couple here. But if I remember correctly, on the summary of our townwide analysis, we were essentially on an average daily flow. We were between 52 and 57% townwide, and that included the projections of the major hotspots for growth going forward. Am I somewhat in the range there?
Yes, we did try to account for known developments at the time when we were setting the model up.
Okay, so I still feel very comfortable then. Do you still feel comfortable? I know this is, we originally budgeted for 8. This is up to 18, but in the grand scheme of things with the entire town, being that this was approved by planning and zoning ready as a development, you're still comfortable with this projection right now?
Yeah, any individual project's not something that's going to make or break. So we just bring this to you to make sure that there's a consistency and an awareness that over time, we'll be starting to push the limit.
Okay.
Of course, when we do have heavy rains, that's when our plant gets, stressed to its limit. So we're already at that point. So new connections, won't make that any better, obviously.
Understood.
But in a normal day, normal peak flow type of situations, it's not really an issue. And Tom can weigh in on that probably more than I can.
Okay. Any other discussion for Mr. Casey on this item?
Greg Can.
Go ahead, Greg.
Thank you, Chris. Thinking of, let's call it the center school property and maybe other opportunities in town center. you know, it isn't like always town-wide. There could be bottlenecks with certain sewer lines or certain intersections that feed the plant. If we're asked, are we voting to spend the $1,700 to have a capacity impact study completed? And if we are, could we incorporate some anticipated future development, for example, another 120 apartments at Center School? Would that, can we look at those together? Could Ty and Bond look at those together to make sure that there's not a constraint, one development down the road?
So John, do you want to weigh in? Greg, good question. My 2 cents, I'll split it with you, right? So I'm fine with, if you want to amend it to add in the 1,700, being that, I forgot about that Mr. Casey said that we approved that for Ty and Bond to do that on this property, being that the developer has this already now approved through planning and zoning. I'm fine with that. I wouldn't mind just taking the Center School property as a separate thing another night on this, to talk about that separately with Ty and Bond for flow purposes. I just think we should separate it.
Yeah, if we, so I don't think going from 8 to 18 is going to make or break anything, but if there's other projects anticipated that use the same pipe, if you will, is the make or break going to be Center School, or is everything still well below threshold, considering the proximity of the two projects?
So maybe what we'll do, and this could be a good refresher for us, for all of us who served on the previous WPCA board, as well as the new additions, and Caitlin and Paul. Maybe what we'll do is I'll talk to John for either the next meeting or the meeting thereafter. We can do a review of the Ty and Bond complete flow analysis town-wide, because I do remember a lot of points in that, being that we built into those models Army engine plant, as well as other potential large, increases over time that we've eyeballed. So I think that's just a larger question. It's not a bad, I'm agreeing with you in terms of trying to model it in. I just think it's a larger question, and I want to try to move forward with this motion. If that's okay. Is that okay with you?
Oh, yeah. It would, but would this be a good time just to do the $1,700, but make it more of a geographic area, not project specific? So maybe it's two motions. One, we approve this 8 to 18 increase for this particular property. Then we make a second motion to have Ty and Bond do a follow-up to their earlier study, just to double check that this one geographic area will not have any constraints on it going down the line. So we don't approve projects in planning and zoning if there's a limitation on the sewer system, for example.
Yeah, no, I understand. John, and again, the reason why I don't want to group these two, Greg, is because we don't have a project at Center School as we speak here today. So I don't want to vote on an assumed project when there isn't anything right now. So I'd like to just separate it, and that's why I said I have no problem next month bringing up the entire I&I capacity study and flow study. And if we want to target Center School property and land specifically and ask them to build models there, I'm fine with that. But I just want to keep it separated for cleanliness.
And I would just say also, just remember that this property is going in one direction on our sewer system, and the other one goes in the other direction on the sewer system. So they end up at the same place, but the pathway that they take to get there are two different paths. So it is appropriate to do them separately, I would think.
Okay.
All right.
Is that okay?
Thank you, John. Yes,
So
it is.
Greg, okay. Greg, do you want to amend your motion then to add in the 1,700?
No, we will. the motion will remain simple that we approve this project at its projected 18,000.
Okay, no problem. Any other discussion on this motion? Okay, we'll call this one for a vote then. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Chair votes aye. Any opposed? No opposed. Motion passes 8-0. Carol, just if you can note in the minutes, Mr. Poisson is back and present for this vote and voted in the favor, in the affirmative. Mr. Casey, I believe that's all for you, sir. You had a good chunk tonight.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, Bill O'Brien.
Mr. O'Brien.
John, you had mentioned a discussion needed for potential review fee. Did you want to talk about that at all?
That was actually something that the chairman had mentioned. If there's a cost to the town to review a project, we feel that we need to have that review done. That the developer would pay that as an application fee, and if the project went forward, then that fee would be deducted from their connection charges. So, you know, if that's something if you want to discuss tonight or think about it more, and but you know, that would be project specific, of course. So if we want to have time on do that on a project that has yet to be proposed, then there would be no one to bill. But on a project by project basis, that could be part of an application process. We don't really have a formal, detailed application process. We just ask them to request it, give us the data, and then we do what we do now and discuss it. So that was one possibility of having the fee paid for.
Okay, I would say let's put that on the agenda for next month.
Yeah, Bill. So thank you for bringing it. I forgot about it, but that was something John and I discussed, and I wanted just to put it there as a kind of a, hey, let everyone read it, think it over, let it sink in. And I'm going to keep it on the agenda for next month, and I'll ask that we discuss it and possibly take action next month.
Sounds good.
So, John, thank you for the summary on that.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Hyde, we have. How are you, sir? We have your reports that you sent to us. Any action items that you have for this evening?
At the end of that second report, the 3 items that I
Yes.
had wanted to mention. Good evening, everyone. First one being the town of Shelton has contacted us regarding a 5-year renewal of their special permit to discharge to the sanitary sewer, the leachate from their Shelton landfill. They're producing about less than 1,000 gallons per day, and I'm looking for board approval and basically to have the town attorney review that. I spoke with you a little bit on this, Chris, a couple weeks ago, and I have failed to reach the attorney appropriately. So that was the first item. So
let's, Tom, let's take these one at a time just for voting purposes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So Mr. Hyde did bring to my attention this a couple weeks ago, and one of the things. So I'd like to entertain a motion to send to the town attorney, Mr. Marino, for pending review and report and analysis, and to report back next month for us to then take action on that. So I'll entertain that motion to send to the WPCA attorney, Mr. Vin Marino, who's on the call. Anyone like to make the motion?
Greg will make a motion to send the town of Shelton's request for renewal to Ben Marino, the town attorney, for evaluation.
Thank you, Greg. Do I have a second?
Second, Bill O'Brien.
Mr. O'Brien, thank you, sir. Discussion. Vin, I see you. I figure I'll let you say hi, and if you want to take a look at this for us, any thoughts initially? I don't know if you've seen it yet.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say it seems like everyone's all of a sudden this week starting to send everything to my old email address again. So just make sure if you're emailing me, it's to my new email address, which is vmarino@mzslaw.com.
So then I'll make sure, if you know what, shoot me a quick email. I'll get it to Carol and Margot and make sure we're cleaned up. And then Carol and Margot can make sure it's sent out to the entire council as well as WPCA board.
Okay, very good. If you get it to me, I'll turn it right around.
Yep. Any other discussion on this? Pretty straightforward. We'll have Vin report back to us next month.
Chris, Greg has, do we monitor the discharge from the Shelton landfill?
Tom or John, to Greg's question, do we monitor that, and how accurate is that? Less than 1,000 a day?
They monitor and report it to the DEP, and the DEP reports to us. And those were numbers based upon those reports. That is a number based upon those reports.
Tom, when you said they, you mean the town of Shelton?
Yes. Yeah, there's a young lady that runs it for them, Ashley, and she had forwarded me copies of the reports, but she reports to the DEP monthly. They do water testing, water quality testing, and so forth to make sure they're not dumping anything hazardous into our system, and they get the approval from that, and we got the information from there.
Gotcha.
Follow up, could we ask for a meter as part of the renewal condition?
We can ask for anything. Tom, would that be?
There already is a meter, but I will confirm that, and if not, absolutely.
Yep, I'm fine with that.
But just to clarify what this discharge is, this is rainfall that falls on the landfill and infiltrates into the soil, and then is collected through a leachate collection system that was designed when they closed the landfill, put the cap on it. So it's not something that they're generating water. It's just water that comes contaminated, rainwater that becomes contaminated, potentially contaminated as it drains through the soil. So it's generally pretty stable, I would think, Tom.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's been the analysis, the testing on the water has shown nothing of concern.
Okay.
Everything has been acceptable.
I was thinking about like smoke tests and other I&I interventions that we did, so that this is more stormwater. The meter just might help us, is helping us validate volume. But thank you for the comment. Bye.
Any other discussion on this? Okay, we'll call for a vote to send to Mr. Marino for approval. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Chair votes aye. Any opposed? No opposed. Motion passes 8-0. Mr. Hyde, next item.
Backup batteries for the switchgear for the backup generators for the main plant. They have life expectancy. They've met their life expectancy and require replacement. I received a quote for $21,000. I'd like to put this item out to bid. Withdraw the funds from equipment service. So
Okay.
I'm just looking for approval to put it out for bid.
Out for bid. So I'll entertain a motion as stated and detailed in Mr. Hyde's report to put it out for bid.
This is Laura Dancho, motion to approve the bidding request for the backup batteries.
Motion by Ms. Dancho. Do I have a second?
Greg will second.
Thank you, Greg. Seconded by Greg. Any discussion? No discussion? Okay. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Any opposed? No opposed. Motion passes 8-0. Mr. Hyde, next item.
No disrespect intended. But I was thinking we lost one of the board members, so we were voting 7 instead of 8-1, or did that person come back?
He did. No worries. Yep,
Okay.
Mr. Poisson jumped back on a few minutes ago.
Okay, very good. Pump used to drain the aeration and anoxic tanks for servicing has failed. In addition to the pump, this repair requires a replacement of 2 shutoff valves, a check valve, and some cast iron piping and fitting. I have one quote at $16,000. Again, I'd like approval to put this out to bid. We're going to be charging it to plant maintenance. We would be charging it to plant maintenance.
This is Laura
Questions?
Dancho, motion to approve going out to bid for the $16,000.
Or Ms. Danto, just for point of clarity, I believe he received one quote for 16. We want to go out to bid, so maybe
Yeah.
item 3. We just want to put it out to bid for item 3.
Put it out to bid.
Okay, just for clarity, just so everyone we're on the same page. Thank you. So motion by Ms. Dancho. Do I have a second to that one?
Second, Bill O'Brien.
Second by Mr. O'Brien. Any discussion on this? Okay, hearing none, we'll call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Chair votes aye.
Aye.
Any- No opposed. Motion passes 8-0. Thank you, Mr. Hyde.
Thank you. Thank you all. That's all I have for this evening.
Next item on the agenda, item 5 under new business, other business, proposed apartments for 2009 and 2019 Main Street correspondence received. Mr. Casey, I'm going to call on you, sir, for a moment. I believe this is what we just discussed under your report. This just kind of might be a slight little duplication. I know the correspondence, it's just referencing the correspondence. Is that correct, sir? I'm not missing anything else?
Yeah, the only thing was that the engineer did make a modification to that, so he sent a revised correspondence dated September 10th, which is what I sent out in my email.
Gotcha. So we're all on the same page. So we don't need any action to be taken on item 5 then. Okay.
Right.
Okay, so that's
40 years then.
that's just Bill O'Brien, background on, thank you. So it's just a point of reference for everyone. And with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Bill O'Brien, motion to adjourn.
Mr. O'Brien, second. Ms. Dancho, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Everyone have a great evening. Thank you all.
Good night. Thank you, everybody.